This is note taker 10 on cellular organization. This will be our last cell note taker. So far we've talked about the structures and the functions of cells. We've talked about how cells reproduce so that we could grow and repair injuries to our body. And we've talked about how cells can get materials into and out of them so that they can function. This last note taker is a very short one. It's on how cells are organized, and when we have cells that make up certain things, and we're going to talk about the different hierarchies throughout here. The first thing I want to talk about with cells is how they're not all the same. Cells come in a lot of different shapes and sizes based on what their function is. So you might have a nerve cell that might be an entire meter in length. But the human egg cell is no bigger than the dot on the I in your note taker. And the human red blood cell is even smaller than that. If you take that dot on the I and you cut it into 10 equal parts, one of those tiny little parts is about the size of a blood cell. So these sizes play a role in what the function of that cell actually is. The shape also tells you something about its job. The nerve cell is long and has these fine extensions on the ends, and those attach to each other, and that's how nerve impulses jump from one nerve cell to the next. Your human red blood cell looks like a little tiny raft, and it's also very flexible so that it can move through the blood vessels almost like a whitewater rafting trip. Here are pictures of the cells I discussed on the previous slide. The top left would be a picture of what your red blood cells look like. The top right is a picture of an egg cell. And the bottom picture is a picture of a nerve cell that's been under a fluorescent light. Living things are all going to be made of cells. Depending on how many cells they have will determine how much work that one cell has to do. So if we're talking about something like a unicellular organism that's only made up of one cell, that cell is going to have to do all of the functions itself. So an example of a unicellular organism is called an amoeba. We'll see a picture of that in just a couple slides. A multicellular organism, however, is made up of lots and lots and lots of cells. Each of those cells can actually have a specific job to do since there are so many of them. So an example of a multicellular organism would be you. We already talked about the cell being the basic unit of structure and function. So depending on whether the organism is one cell or many cells will determine how the cell has to do its job. So a unicellular organism, since it only has one cell, that one cell is responsible for doing all of the life processes. So the example below, and this is a hand-drawn picture, that is an amoeba. An amoeba uses pseudopods, which are these little extensions out to the left and to the right. They're going to be bulges in the cytoplasm, and they're going to use those to move. It also uses them to trap food, which then will form a vacuole around the food and digest it. That cell that the amoeba is made of also needs to reproduce. So since it's only one cell, it's going to reproduce asexually. The pseudopods are going to start to pull apart. The nuclear membrane is going to, the nuclear material is going to replicate, which means split into two. And then the rest of the cell membrane will pinch together and two cells are going to be created. So the reproduction of an amoeba looks a lot like the process of mitosis. Actually, if you remember from the mitosis note taker, mitosis is a way that asexual reproduction can happen. When we talk about a multicellular organism, we now have lots and lots of cells, so each cell doesn't have to do everything. Each cell is going to have a specific job to do. This is called a division of labor, and it works a lot like we have a division of labor here at the school. Miss Smith is the principal. She does the principal's job. She doesn't come into the classroom and do my job. I don't go into the office and do her job. So everybody here at our school has a specific job to do to keep the school running the way it should. So when we talk about a multicellular organism, we have this division of labor. And we're going to start with the smallest part, which is the cell. Cells that are the same type are going to be grouped together, and they're going to make up a tissue. Tissues are groups of similar cells that do the same type of work. So you can have cells in a tissue, like in the picture below. That's a picture of muscle tissue. So each of those cells has a similar job to do. When we have different tissues that have a similar job, they're grouped together and called an organ. So an organ is a structure made up from different types of tissues that work together to perform a specific job. Your heart is an organ, and it's made up of muscle tissue, nerve tissue, and blood tissue, all working together to keep your heart pumping so that blood can move around your body and deliver oxygen to your cells. The picture below, it is not a human heart. That's actually a picture of a pig heart. When we take groups of organs that work together and we group them, they're going to make an organ system. So an organ system is going to be multiple organs that work together to get a job done. So your heart and your blood vessels are going to work together to make up your cardiovascular organ system. So all of our organ systems are then going to work together to keep the organism alive. So when we talk about cell organization, we start with the smallest and we're going to work our way up to the largest. So cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems, and all of our organ systems are going to work together to make up the organism. Your body has 11 organ systems in it. We have our cardiovascular or circulatory system. This is going to involve our heart and our blood vessels, and this is going to keep blood flowing around our body, delivering oxygen to our cells. Our respiratory organ system is going to have things like our organs, our nose, our mouth. It's going to have our trachea. It's going to have our lungs. And the job of our respiratory organ system is to bring oxygen into our body and to get carbon dioxide out of our body. Your nervous system is made of your brain and all of your nerves, and that's going to allow us to have our voluntary and involuntary movements, and it's going to also allow us to have pain sensations or sensory, so we can feel pain. Sorry about the bark, guys. Sadie's getting excited about our organ systems. The muscular system is going to be made up of all the muscles in your body, and that's going to be what allows us to move. Your skeletal system is made up of all the bones in your body, and that's what keeps us upright. Your immune system, also called your lymphatic system, is made up of all of your lymph nodes, your lymph vessels, and your lymphatic fluid. Your immune system is the system that keeps you healthy. So if you get a bacteria or virus into your body, your immune system is what tries to fight that off. Your urinary system is going to involve your kidneys and your bladder, and its job is to get rid of wastes through our urine. Your digestive system, you have your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines, and that's going to be how we break down our food to get nutrients. Your endocrine system is going to be all your glands in your body, and that's going to be what produces your hormones for you. Your reproductive system, well, that's going to be a little different between male and female, but that's going to be the system that allows us to have children. And your integumentary system is actually going to have your largest organ of your body. Your integumentary system is made up of your hair, your fingernails, and the largest organ in your body, your skin. So that's going to be more on the outside of our body. And we've been talking so much about animals and us as a system, but truly, plants being a multicellular organism, they also have this level of cell organization. So if you look down below, I have pictures of each of the levels of cellular organization. So under the microscope, we have a cell, and those cells join together in the second picture and make a tissue. Those tissues join together and make an organ like a leaf or a stem. When we have leaves and stems working together, that makes up an organ system. And when we put all the organ systems of the tree together, we have the organism, which is the tree itself. Don't forget to answer the 3-question assessment following the video.